Welcome. The Passive Sampling Technology Update team is proud to present an overview of the high-resolution passive profiler technology. This quick video will provide a high-level overview of the device, as well as instructions on how to use, deploy, and retrieve the device. For more information on this and other passive sampling technologies, please visit the Passive Sampling Technology Update Guidance document. The High-Resolution Passive Profiler, or HRPP, is a diffusion-based equilibrium-type passive sampler used to quantify and delineate a wide range of chemicals and sediments in shallow groundwater. The device essentially combines different passive sampler components including equilibration cells, microbiotraps, velocity cells, and solid-phase microextraction, or SPME fibers, to delineate various chemicals and key parameters at high resolutions. The combined tool can be used to measure concentrations of metals, volatile organic compounds, and certain geochemical parameters. Equilibration cells within the HRPP are filled with reagent water, typically spiked with a known concentration of a tracer chemical. The target chemicals diffuse through the membrane and equilibrate, while the tracer diffuses out through the membrane. The HRPP device can be directly inserted into a saturated sediment to simultaneously determine the bioavailable concentrations of chlorinated VOCs, the concentrations of key geochemical parameters, the composition of microbial communities, and pore water velocity at centimeter vertical resolution. Additional peeper samplers can be deployed with the HRPP device if additional sample volume is required. The expanded peeper array typically consists of a chamber plate with equilibration cells filled with analyte-free reagent water, with a porous mesh screen placed across the equilibration cells and covered with a lid that allows diffusion to occur in the surrounding aqueous media. Sample volume is controlled by the chamber plate design. The mesh screen should be selected based on target analytes. For metals and inorganics, a 0.45 micrometer pore size nylon or polypropylene meshes are commonly used. A 0.2 micrometer polyether sulfone can be used to collect samples for VOC analysis. These mesh screens are commercially available from vendors. The HRPP is typically deployed in redox-sensitive environments and needs to be filled with reagent water without air bubbles because residual oxygen can result in biased results. When assembled, care must be taken to prevent air bubble formation. The sampler should be assembled and shipped to the site ready to deploy with minimum handling of the samplers. The samplers must be kept cool and avoid oxygen until they are deployed. When ready for deployment of the peeper array, open a sealed bag of the device and remove them from the packaging. For deployment in wells, the samplers should be placed within a protective plastic mesh and attached to a weighted line. It is preferable to deploy the sampler sideways in a well if there is no size restriction. But for deployment in wells, it is usually necessary to deploy it facing downward to minimize mixing as the samplers are brought back to the surface. But it is noted that the water inside the sampler may be gradually lost from nylon screen when facing down. Carefully place the sampler array into the target sampling media at a desired location and depth. Ensure your sampler is tied to the rope to a firm point on land or suspended using weights and buoys. After an appropriate deployment duration, gently retrieve the sampler array from the sampling media. Any residue or solid buildup on the sampler during deployment should be removed with analyte-free reagent water and wiped with clean wipes. Then, remove the lid and nylon screen of each sampler and immediately transfer the water sample inside the sampler into the laboratory-provided bottles. The filled sample bottles should be shipped on ice for analysis. Some important takeaways about the HRPP sampler are: the device combines multiple passive sampling technologies on one tool. Additional peeper samplers can be used and must be filled without headspace and kept cool and away from oxygen prior to deployment. It is important to assess whether any precipitate, such as iron oxide, is precipitated inside the sampler. The required sample volume for your project must be considered. Due to the fact there are many different sampling technologies on one tool, deployment duration should be carefully determined for your target analytes, and extended deployment times may be necessary. The data collected from the HRPP is useful in developing fate and transport models for your site. Remember, you can learn more about the HRPP technology and others in the ITRC Passive Sampling Update online guidance document.